You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 419, our breakdown of the Ahsoka Tano, or the Ahsoka teaser trailer stuff that was shown at Celebration, as well as a quick look at Skeleton Crew, which is going to be a skeletal episode because, quite honestly, they didn't give us a whole lot to discuss. Nonetheless, we're here. We've been putting this show off for some time now, and we said we would get to all of this stuff, and again, our apologies, it's been 3 weeks later, but I think there's some things to talk about. And now we have the benefit of everybody else going out there and finding all the Easter eggs and things and breaking them down. So we can just, make it sound like we came up with the stuff on our own. But we do have some new things to discuss. I think there are some things both in Skeleton Crew and Ahsoka that have kind of been glossed over. And of course, in true Cantina Cast fashion, we're going to dig into those in a lot more detail and probably speculate and come up with some crazy tinfoil hat theories. So speaking of crazy and tinfoil hat theories, please welcome to the show Jonesy. Jonesy's with us tonight. Jonesy, how are you doing?
Doing well, sir. How about yourself?
I'm good.
It's always important to ask how someone else is doing when they ask you how you're doing, right?
It is.
Yeah. Like some people just like, oh, fine. They kind of go into their whole spiel. But no, I want to know how you're doing.
Yeah, most of the time I don't really care, but it is, you're right. It is polite. You should ask how the other person, I'm kidding.
But only if you mean it.
Only if you mean it.
Right.
I'm doing good. I really appreciate the amount of work you put into that intro. You cleaned it all up. Looks great. We've got the new logos in there now. So you even got the whoosh sound.
That's right. Yeah, that was a big debate point, whether or not to have the whooshes in there or not.
I'm like, no, put the whoosh in there. Put it in there. I found one.
Dang it. Yeah, we had to go find the right one because I didn't have the one you originally used. But so I had to do a little bit of wizardry, but I found something.
No, it looks great. Thank you for doing that. And it incorporates all of the logos that we have access to now. I don't think there's anything missing, but I like that you cleaned them up too. Some of them were just, I slapped them in there originally, but you went all out.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like for those that don't know, some of those images, those early ones, especially those first 2 or 3, I think Albert went and grabbed a snapshot off the website or something, or a Google cached version of the website or something. So they were really low res. Mm-hmm. And so trying to get those scaled up, basically one of them had to go and just recreate from scratch. Thankfully, it wasn't too difficult, but man, yeah, some of them are I'm just glad that we have them, because that first one's really cool. Like the neon sign one. I always liked that one. I wish I could, redo that one, but I don't know what font they used.
Well, we might have a new logo coming out here soon. That
good. I'm glad I teased that up for you.
Yeah, just teasing that out there. There may be a new logo coming out, not to replace the main logo, but something else.
Just soon. a little fun thing on the side. Some things we're working on.
Yeah, variation. I'm going to call that the 97 re-release intro. All right, Lucas, you wouldn't clean them all up like Lucas did back in 97. So.
There we go. And we inserted new footage.
Yes, Jabba. I don't know if you guys caught Jabba, but he was in that intro there.
Yeah, but in my version, Han still shot first.
Yeah, so very subtle changes.
And there's no McClunky.
There's no McClunky.
Or is there?
Well,
that would have been fun
because we have no news.
We got 2 pieces, right? I've told Albert before he came on air that actually StarWars.com you can tell it's really slow when StarWars.com starts releasing do-it-yourself videos. And so they released this do-it-yourself, not a video, but a series of instructions about how to make your own little miniature Starlight Beacon bookends. Oh. And so this was like right up your alley, and it's kind of cool. It's just made out of like toothpicks and bottle caps, basically. And once you paint it and everything, it actually kind of looks pretty cool. And, and it's just like 2 little blocks, and they just rested in there. So it's pretty fun. You can go check it out on StarWars.com. But we did have like real news though. And we talked about this a few days ago, but we have a book that the embargo is now up.
Yeah. Do you have your book with you?
Oh, no, it's in the other room.
Shadow, I have it here. I don't have the cover because I take the jackets off as I get it. I wasn't really going to bring it up, but I thought maybe you had it behind you. So Shadow the Sith. We've talked about this book quite a bit lately. Is that focusing? No, I'm trying to hold up the spine. This book is finally out. I should say no. The book's not out. The embargo is lifted today as of the 14th. So we can talk about it. I have my review written about 3/4 of the way. I'm going to record it probably. Maybe if we get out of here early enough, I'll record it tonight. If not, it'll probably be Thursday, and I plan on releasing that on Friday. So Friday morning, we'll have a non-spoiler review, and then Jonesy and I are going to come back and talk about this because there's quite a bit to talk about. And I guess I can. The only thing I'll say is what I had mentioned to. I posted this on Twitter to Adam Christopher. I don't think the fandom is ready for this book, and I mean that in all sincerity. This book crosses every single form of Star Wars at every level. It's everything from the prequels to the Old Republic stuff. They've got sequel stuff in there. They've got original trilogy stuff in there. Characters you were not expecting. It's just a plethora, and it does so without being like overtly, cheesy or overtly in your face or on the nose.
It's not trying to be. Yeah, it's not trying to be like smarter than it is.
No.
I'm saying, well, look all this stuff I know. It actually works into the story.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I can't believe.
Well, it's fun when you got to talk to Adam Christopher too. Like he gave you just little tidbits about how long the original draft was and some things like that. And I think you said this when you showed us the book last week, where it was still a massive book when it comes in. It was much thicker than we anticipated.
Yeah, I mean it's nearly 500 pages long, but it doesn't feel like it. Like I said, it reads pretty quick. So more on that coming up. We may have a special announcement regarding this book too. That's all I'll say. As well. So lots more to come around that book, but please pick that up on June 28th. You owe it to yourself. I think somebody in Discord asked me how, I forget who it was now. Was it Lucid Truth? Someone asked how the book was, and I said it's been the best Star Wars, in my opinion, the best Star Wars book that's come out since The Rising Storm. Wow. It is probably still one of the better Star Wars books overall, in my opinion. And that's a bold statement, but I stand by it. So.
And it's such an easy read. I mean, that's the part that's crazy. Even though it's jam packed and it's good. I'm a good ways through it, and it's just so easy to read. It's just it's not difficult to consume it, and you just keep wanting to turn the pages. And man, any entertaining book, you're gonna have something like that is really cool.
Yep. Okay. Beyond that, I don't think we have any other news. Although we do have a new member to our Patreon subscription. Want to thank. Daz Davies, and Daz was somebody that we met out at Celebration. It was like the will of the force brought us together.
The will of the Liverpool in soccer
/ Man United.
Right.
Because they're United fans, they're not Liverpool fans, and there's very distinctly two.
I was trying not to acknowledge that part for you.
Yeah, two different classes of people, and I won't say which where they sit or where I sit because it's all about their point of view. But no, seriously, Daz, thank you so much. This is a gentleman that we met there at Celebration. We had a
super
great time
cool guys
talking to him and his buddy, and he just happened to tune into the shows, and now he's a Patreon member. So thank you so much for doing that. And it's coming from across the pond there, so it is a little bit pricier because of our weak dollar right now. But so that's even a more thanks for doing that.
It was kind of cool. It was like seeing something come across in pounds. I was like, all right, we've made the big times. Now we're getting in different currencies.
Yeah.
Hey, and before we get started, huge thanks to our Plus Little Extra members, Mike and Kathy, who are at the special tier, going a little bit extra. We certainly appreciate all the extra support. And of course, anybody that's interested in checking out our Patreon, we do have exclusive content out there. We're a little behind on that because there's been so much we want to put out in our normal general feed, but we will be getting to that as soon as things settle down a little bit. Once Kenobi is done, we'll be able to get into more regular rhythm on that. But you can check that out at cantinacast.com/Patreon. And there's a tier for everyone. It starts as little as $1. So if you guys like what you're hearing, please consider contributing to the show. Everything you guys put into us gets put right back into the show for keeping it running and any other opportunities we might be able to have a little bit later on. So, but again, thank you guys for supporting us, as well as those who just tune in and listen. We do appreciate it.
Yep. Operators are standing by to take your pledges at this time. It's kind of like the Jerry Lewis telethon, if anybody remembers that.
It is. That would be kind of fun to do.
No.
I mean, I don't know how we'd come up with. We'd have plenty of content. We'd just have you talk for 4 hours. Be great.
Thank you. I think that's a compliment because I actually like Jerry Lewis, but I don't know. It sounds like
those telethons, man. Those take a lot of planning and effort to keep them moving, and it takes a very special person to not make it boring.
Right. To find people that are no longer that are washed up in Hollywood to come on air and do something special to earn.
So we just need to find people who are washed up in podcasting.
Yeah, we got a lot of them. We'll call Mike up here. Oh, I'm kidding.
Oh, that's not true.
No, no.
It might not be true.
Can't say anything.
Who knows?
We got.
That's right.
There might be some news coming with Mike. Mike Rondo, not Star Wars related though.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time there were news with Mike Rondo, but
yep. Check the city blotter at any given time on the weekend, and you may see Mike Rondo's name. I'm kidding. Okay, let's move on. Sorry.
Let's get rolling. What do you want to start with?
Let's start with Skeleton Crew, because I think this one I mean, neither one really has a lot of substance here, to be honest.
Right.
But
it was literally like a 5-minute panel or something like that, 8-minute panel. There wasn't much to it at Celebration.
Yeah, and we've got a visual aid. We've got some pictures here that we're going to share as well. So anybody that's on the live feed or watching this on YouTube after we posted it, you will get to see that. Otherwise, we'll do our best to explain this, and no promises. So
what you're saying is there's a live stream that accompanies this, Albert.
yeah, every time we do a show, we record these live.
You can check it out on YouTube, Facebook's, and I think even Twitter is streaming it now.
Yes, it has the ability, but I don't think it archives it. I mean, yeah, it does. Okay.
Yeah, it kind of does.
All right, what do you think of the logo first? So we got the Star Wars.
I love the logo,
Skeleton
actually.
Crew looks a little rusty.
Yeah, it's like a rusty. Yeah, I like it a lot. I think the font is a little bit different than what we normally get. And so I really like this logo. I think it really looks sharp.
Yeah, I do too. It reminds me, I think I said this when we were not on the air or anything, but at Celebration, it reminded me of a logo that you would see like at Galaxy's Edge or something. Right.
Yeah.
And that's not feedback. I mean, that's not a negative thing. It's very stylized. I do like it too. The font's, like you said, a little bit different, but it feels Star Warsy, if you will.
Well, and again, it fits this timeline that we're in, this time frame that we're still in. This is an extension of the Mandoverse, if you will. And I think with that aesthetic, I think it really fits in with that. This kind of grimy, dirty, the galaxy's in this weird place, and things just don't. We're not in a time of the New Republic where they've got their act together and they're everything is being restored and renewed. Reconciliation across the galaxy. Everything is shiny and becoming new again. No, it's still kind of a dump in a lot of ways. And with the story that we'll kind of share what we know, this kind of logo makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah, and I have the Grammar Rodeo up, so I'm glad we can stop calling it Grammar Rodeo.
Yes, please, thank you.
And there's a reason why it was called Grammar Rodeo. I think we talked about this after we came back from Celebration and talking about just kind of our initial thoughts. We may have touched on this. You probably already heard this many times before, but again, this is this was the code name for this show, Grammar Rodeo, and it was based on this Simpsons episode where Bart and these 3 other kids they steal a car or borrow a car, and they head out to go to, I forget where they're heading out to, but their alibi is that they're going to this National Grammar Rodeo kind of thing. And it's about kind of the journey for them going back and forth, which plays into the story. So I just thought it'd be funny to throw this up there because it's the last time we'll probably mention a Grammar Rodeo.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, I know. But Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are both the producers. Thanks to Getty Images for these images because I couldn't find anything that was clear. It's directed by John Watts and written by Chris Ford. So John Watts directed Spider-Man Homecoming.
Right.
And then Chris Ford was the writer. So that's kind of how they paired up. And this is their kind of their Star Wars foray here. So what do you think about that? I mean, Homecoming was widely accepted as an incredible movie. I happen to love it, but any thoughts there around what is that kind of pre-telling what we're going to see here?
Well, I hope so. I mean, and again, it's hard to differentiate some of the delivery. I mean, Homecoming had just had so many great actors in it though too, but the writing has always been sharp. It's been witty. Mm-hmm. It's been solid. It's not been super campy except when they wanted it to be, right? And so I think that bodes well. I mean, and if you think about, the Spider-Man series, you're dealing with younger people, so clearly they can, grab and inspire that type of audience as well. Is not going to just be our audience. And what I really like about it though, is like it's centered around, kids, or the kids are a big part of the story. And so for that to be, for that dialogue to fit, presumably what their age group will be, but in a more mature way, I think is really important. And they've found that balance in the Spider-Man movies, which are really important to do because you have a character who's basically a high school kid, but is really smart and has all of these really adult themes going on throughout it. So I think it's a really good blend of hopefully what we're going to be able to see in this one too. And they'll bring that same kind of magic over to Star Wars.
Yeah, I agree. I think that certainly bodes well for it. I'm pretty happy that both of these guys are involved. I just know, so I've got a close-up picture right now of Chris Ford and I forgot his name, John Watts. John Watts is not wearing a Star Wars anything, which I think is atrocious given that he was at Star Wars Celebration, but
Yeah, that's kind of a party foul there.
Yeah, like, dude, you showed up for celebration. Wear a Star Wars shirt or a hat or something.
Right.
Bracelet.
At least a flannel shirt. Come
He
on.
doesn't even have his lanyard on. Come on, man. You're losing credibility there.
Does he have his health bracelet? I didn't see that either.
No, I didn't see it. No, I don't think they were. Some of like Kathleen Kennedy didn't have hers on. A number of other people, so I think they were exempt for monetary reasons. So here is the here's the Star Wars Skeleton Crew logo again, but this is the image that they splashed up there when they very nonchalantly said that Jude Law would also be a part of the series, which is the first time that we had gotten any kind of word that anyone other than quote kids were going to be a part of the show.
Right.
Jude Law has been in all sorts of roles. I happen to like him as an actor. What do you think about his role, and any speculation as to what do you think he'd be doing? I've heard, he's going to play a good guy. Everything. He's going to play a bad guy. He's the main. They said he's the main. I mean, it is starring Jude Law, is how they announced him. So
yeah, he's the focal point of the series here. It seems. I mean, he's great, and I think the thing about Jude Law is that he is, while earlier on in his career, really a lot of serious type of parts, but we've seen him be in. What was he in? He was in Captain Marvel, right?
Yeah, he's the kind of the bad guy.
Yeah, the good guy turned bad and all of that. And he's been in a couple other things too that have, shown that this is a world that he can step into. And but also
Harry Potter.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Harry Potter. Yeah, he's in Fantastic Beasts and in that world, right?
Yep.
And so I mean, this is a guy. He's clearly got the acting chops, and so it's a matter of, is this going to be a more serious character? Are we going to see a different side of that? Now, what I think might be happening, and so I had to actually create this just for the show. Make sure I've got my aluminum foil.
Oh, you got a tinfoil hat on there.
Tinfoil hat. Yep.
Oh man.
Just for you.
Okay, you go. Go ahead.
Is that what I would love to see, and what would make a whole lot of sense actually, is that what if Jude Law was Hondo Ohnaka?
Hondo Ohnaka.
Yeah, and so you find these. So I have a whole theory. So, God, I sound like you today. So you had these kids, right? And they're in this giant ship. I'm sure you've got some of these images. Maybe you could kind of flash them up there rather than we just have this intense look from Jude Law. He's making me feel things I don't normally feel.
Oh, well, there you go.
So you got this gigantic ship, right? And you got these 4 kids, and they're just kind of lost in the galaxy, right? That's kind of the premise. And the story generally is that they're trying to find their way through the galaxy. Or they're not really. Did they really share if they were finding their way home or?
Yeah, it's so. Well, go ahead and it says a group of 10 kids, a group of kids 10 years old. They come from a tiny planet. They get lost in the Star Wars galaxy, and the story is of them trying to find their way home.
Right. So I think these kids end up on this, or they don't end up on the ship. I think Hondo is the captain of the ship, and he finds them. And so it's this adventure of Hondo with these kids. And Hondo, you're going to find out he's out, maybe not down on his luck, but again, he's kind of out on the outskirts of something where he lost his crew again to some other scheme he was doing. And he's going to turn these kids into his new crew. And of course, the whole skeleton crew is that you got this giant ship and only 4 or 5 people to run it. But so I think you're going to have, Jude Law being Hondo Ohnaka, teaching these kids the galaxy. And it's going to be like, Peter Pan type action. It's going to be great.
Oh, wow. No, I like that. You're taking your hat. Did you see mine? Can you see it?
Oh, well, I have my screen like really small. No, nicely done.
Yeah. I've got I actually put foil on a hat.
Wait, did you go do that when you were like, hey, I'm going to go get my water?
Yeah.
You're such a jerk. I love you.
I did. This is before we came on the air. I was like, I got to get my water real quick. I didn't really get my water. I was actually taking foil paper and applying it to another hat so I could swap it out just to make sure I wasn't left out here.
Well done, fine sir. Well done.
Yep. Okay, so I'll leave this on. It's really hot, by the way.
Protecting your brain is difficult.
Yeah.
It requires some sacrifice.
I like that theory, though. I would, because Hondo Ohnaka is someone that they're going to have lots of makeup and prosthetic paints and all that stuff on them that, you could really throw a number of people in there, provided they can just, pull the accent off and the nuance of the character. So it could be somebody like them. It could be a ton of other people. Gary said, but he was an android gigolo in AI. So there is that. I actually enjoyed
that was probably a prerequisite for him casting for this, and we had to go in there for the test screen.
Gigolo check.
Right.
So I don't know that I have anything that I actually like that theory. I think mine's probably just a little bit more conservative. I do feel like if they are going to follow this Graham Rodeo thing, I can see them stowaway in this ship, or these kids that are mischievous at 10 years old decide they're going to get in a ship and take off. And then the next thing they're getting caught up because people see them in the ship and they think they're whoever, Jude Law's characters, or maybe Jude Law's in there with them. I don't know, or his character's in there with them as well. But I have a feeling it's going to be very similar to like they said, it's going to be a throwback to like the Steven Spielberg type movies of the 80s, where these kids are kind of caught up in this really large situation or big situation that they normally wouldn't be in. But again, they did mention also this is going to be it is a kid show. It's got kids in it, but it's not a kid show, right?
Right.
It stars for kids, but it's not a kid show. Is the exact quote. So I don't think we're gonna get like a Stranger Things type thing. I think people have been saying that, and I think there's probably the association of something being gory or scary or eerie. I don't think they're going that, but I do think they're going to get into like this ET moment or some of the more adventurous things that happen in something like Stranger Things without the the horror aspect of it all. So I'm excited about it, especially if if their roots are embedded in that 80s era of storytelling with kids. There's some really great stories in there, Goonies, Stand By Me, all these great movies that came out back then.
Right. Lost Boys.
Lost Boys, Monster Squad. That's a oldie, but good.
But again, it is during the the Mando time frame here. So after Return of the Jedi, well before Force Awakens. So that while we're not quite out of that era, it is a little bit. This is kind of the interesting thing, though. Of for as much as Kathleen Kennedy and them have said that they want to get out of this, kind of the 9 saga movie timelines. We're still very much in it, and they're very much building out this Mando universe that we've got going. Of course, we're going to talk about Ahsoka here in a little bit too, but I think it's still ripe for stories, right? And I think it's a really interesting time in the galaxy for stories like this to keep coming out, and that they don't have to be prescriptive and they don't have to be boring. I think you still have flexibility. So I think the question is, are we going to see, Force users or Force powers or things like that in this series when we've seemingly not been able to get out of seeing any of them in any series? Or is that going to continue? Or are we actually going to finally somewhat break from it with this series?
I think we will. I think we'll still see that. I mean, we don't, as far as we know, until the Resistance comes into power, they're the Force. It's where we are when the Resistance comes into power, and Broom Boy and all that, where there's heroes out there that are probably still Force. It's almost like we're back to where we were during the Kenobi series. There are Force sensitive people out there, and we always said there would be,
Right.
But now we're starting to learn, okay, what's going on with them. So
at least they're not being hunted in this time. So
exactly. Yeah, exactly right. So I think that's fine. I think it's fair to say that there's probably going to be, I think the Force is going to have, it doesn't have to be there, but I'd like to see it be there in some way. Maybe, it doesn't have to be in our face, but could be somebody that's Force sensitive. Another thing that came up too, I mean, this is concept art, right? So it's always kind of tricky.
It's literally the only concept art they showed.
Yeah. But there's one of the characters down there does not look like a human child.
The short one there.
Yeah, it looks like maybe some kind of a humanoid character. It doesn't look like a droid because it looks a little too,
a little too. What's the
fluid?
word?
Humanoid.
Humanoid. There we go. Yeah,
right. Not robotic.
I agree with that.
Android looking. But yeah, any thoughts around that? I would love, personally, I would love for them to do this. The only problem that I have with it is, once we get into, when we start shrinking down characters and, they're not animated, right? It's not CGI, and they start using, let's take, for example, what's his face? Kuriel, what's his name? Kuviel? For the Mandalorian.
Oh, Quill.
Quill, thank you. Somebody like him.
Wow, offensive much?
Yeah, sorry. Somebody like him, I think it worked. So I think they could do it. I don't know about getting a child actor and doing that. I don't know how that would go over. Maybe it goes over fine just without any problems. But that's a lot of makeup and prosthetic and stuff to put on a child.
It's hard to put. Yeah, that's the part, right?
Yeah,
having prosthetics and all that.
Yeah, unless they're going to dub the voice in some way. But I wouldn't mind if it's ET. Maybe it is ET. Wouldn't that be something?
The legs are a bit long for ET.
But no, what if they actually took that race, which I can't, it starts with an A, I think. And they remember, because it's canon, right?
It's canon. It's in Phantom Menace, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. What if they did that? No. So, in all seriousness, no. I wouldn't be opposed to them bringing a child. I just think it's a lot more challenging. It's probably just cleaner to go with, okay, they're all human children or humanoid rather than shrinking one down and tossing a bunch of latex stuff all over them.
Yeah, and I think that is the challenging part. But I think it's, for them to all be human, I think is also not necessarily Star Wars enough in that regard. We're used to seeing aliens, and we were used to seeing them younger too, right? I mean, we saw this in Phantom Menace. We had Anakin's friends, right? They were, Kitster was human, but clearly you had little baby Greedo there, and so they can do it and they can make it work, and it's, it can be successful, I think, in that regard. So I think that they would have not at least one non-humanoid, and then they would have the other humanoid, but they would be of different species, right? So
right.
I don't know why, but I'm looking at what's presumably a female there. It looks like like a Vernestra Rowe, actually, kind of hair, but
there.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, this is definitely not that or anything even close, but it's just reminds me of that. But still, we're going to get some diverse characters here, and I think one of them should be, quote unquote, an alien, if you will.
Yeah.
Then again, Jude Law's going to be Hondo, so we kind of got that covered with the adult side too.
Right. Yep. Okay. Well, again,
maybe that one is Hondo's son, and so
just leave your hat on. Don't even take it off the rest of the time.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot more to come on this one. Coming in 2022 on stage.
23.
Sorry. 2020. I'm losing my mind completely here. 2023. They are filming already. So when they came up on stage, they had mentioned they had just started filming or about to kick off filming. Well, no, they said in spring. So
yeah, they were about to start. So they should be rolling now.
Right.
Which is interesting to have concurrent projects going on with Ahsoka at the same time, because presumably they keep using, the volume. So that's an interesting one that they'd have two at the same time, because we've seen where they've had to do them sequentially in order to make use of all the stage.
Well, maybe they've invested in another one. I heard they were building more. So
I think that's right. I think they wanted like 3 or 4 of them or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they've already got through.
And it makes sense if they're going to invest all their time and step away from movies for a little bit here. They're going to need something like this, right, to get all these projects out and keep them running simultaneously like this. So
right, and again, we, not to go too hard into Kenobi, but in the last series or last part for Kenobi, part 4, I think we again saw some limitations of the volume again, where you had different lighting and you had different. This was like when Obi-Wan was sneaking out Leia in the trench coat. Mm-hmm. If you look at the scene, like some of the characters are just weird looking, right, and they seem to be walking like towards the window, like a squad of stormtroopers, and you have some that rock in the frame and they're just lit much brighter. So again, I'm hoping that when they do have these revised versions of the volume, that the technology does take a leap forward and we're able to maybe upgrade what we've got to smooth out some of, what is a fantastic idea and what has been really working well, but to really take it to that next level and really continue to push that boundary and to what it's, to what maybe we could really do to continue to blur the line between what is, film magic and reality.
Yep. So what? There was a good question here. Eugene said, "What kind of ship is that?"
That's a good question. We don't really know.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think we've seen one like this before.
No.
And again, it's concept art, so it's really difficult to say that's anything. It could just be a brand new design.
It could be. The engines, though, is what I guess I'm focusing on, because it does look like a lot of the blockade runners and the hammerhead class type ships, with the thrusters like that. But the thrusters themselves, look, they're turning. Look at the front; it looks like they're turning so that they could land. And I can't think of a ship in Star Wars, honestly, that has that. Normally, they just kind of pop and go, right?
Yeah, definitely reminds me of like what was the ship that would, or the airplane that could do that, where they could rotate and hover.
Yeah, it was the, oh, geez.
I can't remember either.
Jump jet. I forget.
Yeah, they may have had a couple of them. I know there were some test jets too there for a while, but
mm-hmm.
Again, it kind of looks like a freighter ship though, of sorts, which would make a lot of sense. It might be a junkyard ship too, but we'll have to see if that's the final design, or if that one's still in progress or not.
Yeah.
But again, it looks Star Wars. I think to your point though, it has that. It definitely feels like Star Wars, right? It has the same similar design elements of what we've seen in other material, so it fits pretty well.
Yeah. Now I'm looking at it. It looks like the front is over here, actually. Because look, the lights are facing down. Oh, there's no window here. All right.
Right, and those would be, if those are the propulsion I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, difficult to tell because it's very ET inspired.
But it does have like this hammerhead front to it as well, right? If this is the front,
Right. That kind
going
of looks like
across the left or right, but it
yeah,
does
that
look
kind of
like
looks
the
like
back.
the back though. Yeah.
Who knows? 'Cause this looks like,
Interesting.
all right. Well, excited about this. The only other thing that I had in here as far as my notes go, when they were on stage, they had mentioned, like you said, does take place during the era of the Mando universe or Mandoverse. And Dave Filoni, of course, being Dave Filoni, went on. He said something along the lines of, "They're all connected in a weird way." And then
Yeah.
they paused, and then someone said, "Are we being mysterious enough?" And so this is again going back to what we've been talking about, where we think, at least back to the 2020 announcement that Kathleen Kennedy made, that somehow these were going to be all connected in some way, telling some grander story. Now that could be just a grander story in the perspective of they're all connected in this time frame, or it could mean that they're leading towards something, and we're getting these clues, even though we may not see them or pick them up right now. Later down the road, there may be a larger overall story being told, and maybe leading to some kind of crossover event where we're going to get different characters from all these different shows pop up, and I don't know, take Admiral Thrawn down or something. But what do you think
Oh, you
about
know
that?
what? Maybe these are the love child of Pelimato and
All right, we're going to move on. Anything else?
yeah, Jude Law is separated from his wife, left her on Tatooine, so they go back to Tatooine. That's how we get back to Tatooine.
Yeah, he left her for Jawas, which is the same as leaving her for dead.
Wow.
Wow.
Just wow, man.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Oh boy.
Ahsoka.
Let's talk about Ahsoka. Okay, so I don't have the logo up. I think we've probably all seen the logo now at this point, I would imagine. But let's talk about the what we know. Okay, so we know that, of course, Rosario Dawson's coming back. There's been Hayden Christensen now has been confirmed to come back in some way, to be determined. We'll talk about that here in just a second. We got the announcement of who's playing Sabine. So Natasha Liu Bordizzo, I guess
Right.
is how you pronounce her name. We also Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Ivana Sanko, Ray Stevenson, and Chopper was the most recent one that was introduced at
Playing
Celebration.
himself. Yeah.
Playing himself, right? Just to be clear. Let's talk about the characters just really quickly. Rosario Dawson. I mean, the only thing that we've already talked about, what we like about her character, her portrayal of Ahsoka Tano. In a little bit, I've got a picture of her Leku being a little bit longer, and they had talked about, because of it, and we said this was probably going to happen through advanced technologies. They found a way to make these things longer and still be able to film these, high action shots. But what did you think? I can pull up. Well, I don't want to pull it up just yet. But Rosario Dawson coming back, reprising her role, of course. No big
Yeah, I
surprise
think
there.
well, and I think when you get to the thing where she pulls back her hood, the audience reaction at Celebration speaks for itself. She has become synonymous with the part, even for some of the criticism that the appearance might have, or some of the creative decisions they've done to do with it. She is now firmly rooted as Ahsoka Tano, and I think that's really cool. I mean, and again, it's a very different character or spiritually it's the same, but I mean, it's definitely got some visual differences now that she's an adult in this way versus Rebels. But I think it's working, and I think she's been well received enough, and we had enough time with her that I think this is just going to be a natural fit. And again, I like this because this gives her an opportunity to really shine in her own way, and to really be that front and center character, and really to bring us into Rebels, and for her to have that, to have this connectivity with it all. I think it's just going to be a lot of fun to see that, and to see some of these characters come into real life. And I'm really hoping that we see like a Zeb or something like that too. I think that would be really fun to see an actual Lasat on screen.
Yeah. And I think they're probably pacing themselves. I mean, we've got to remember where he's at the end of Rebels, right?
Yeah.
He's now living this glorious life with, what's his name out there?
Callus.
And kind of trying to bring back the Lasat species, right?
Right.
So I think they would go there. Maybe he's a surprise though. Midway, they decide they need his help, or maybe towards the end he's like introduced. I don't think we'll see him out of the gate. I think the way that series ended seems like it's going to be hyper focused on Ahsoka Tano and Sabine being out there and kind of starting the legwork. But
Right.
Hayden Christensen. So I guess again, one of the worst kept secrets. I think he blew this himself, and then finally he came out on it was on Hollywood Reporter. He did an interview and mentioned that yes, he was going to be in there. So I think that's official now. However, going into the Kenobi series, I think we were anticipating that we'd get a ton of flashbacks or some flashbacks, at least with him as Hayden Christensen or as Anakin Skywalker without the Darth Vader type stuff. Do you see it being the same kind of thing where he's more portraying Vader in some way? Because I mean, at this point, Vader's gone. Maybe we'll come back to that here in a little bit too. But Vader's gone at this point. So how would he come back? Is he a Force ghost? Is he coming back as Vader? Is it a flashback to Clone Wars of scenes that we did not get before? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I don't know at this point because I think it would be for him to be back as Anakin is difficult because of, and I think it's difficult because of Rosario Dawson being the age that she is, and when Anakin and Ahsoka were partners, she was still quite young, and so that's a really big disconnect in that timeline, and so I mean because that's what is that? 25 to 30 years, span.
Yeah.
That's a really tough one to go back and do. And so for it to be Anakin, I don't know. I would really like to see Vader again on screen with Ahsoka because I just think that's a more interesting dynamic where they were left out in Rebels and what more do they have to say to one another, or what are the emotional scars for Ahsoka, based all on that. Also knowing that she's balancing this thing that she has this, friendship with Luke, or this kinship with Luke, whatever you want to call that, while she's also trying to find Ezra and Thrawn, and Ezra, of course, being Force sensitive, so it's just I think that's more of an interesting dynamic than it is to go back to the Clone Wars days, with Anakin proper. So I think that's what I would prefer. And again, knowing what we know, I think the part where we could see truly Anakin, though, is if we're going to have flashbacks with Thrawn, and we actually pull some of that material from the Zahn novels, especially that first set. And I think that would be what was the one with the Anakin and Thrawn kind of team up, Alliance, yeah, something like that. So anyway, I think that one might have some possibilities there to where it's kind of a mislead that Anakin or Vader would actually cross paths with Ahsoka in any kind of respect during the series.
Yeah.
What about you? What would you like to see, and then what do you think we're going to see then?
Okay, so before I do, I'm going to put something up on the screen real quick, we've never done this before, but I'm going to give you a spoiler from. I have to talk about this because it's relevant now. So I will take this message down, and I'll tell you guys that if you're listening to the podcast, maybe just fast forward 30 seconds. But when I count down to three, from three. But I do want to mention just one thing very quickly that I think they could do. So I'm going to do that in 3, 2, 1. You should be covering your ears or turning the volume down or disconnecting at this point. So in the book, Shadow of the Sith, we do get an Anakin Skywalker. We get him talking to Luke. And so I would love for them to take advantage of that and bring him back. Like, he is talking to them at this point. So I think it makes sense for them to bring in Anakin or Hayden Christensen, have him play Anakin Skywalker, and he comes back as a young Anakin Skywalker talking to Luke. So there's nothing that would make me think he wouldn't be able to talk to Ahsoka Tano in some way as well.
So you think more of the Force spirit than
he's
already
kind
dead.
Of a
we're not flashing back. We're actually in the moment in real time.
Because if you think about it, we've got like with Kenobi,
that would be an interesting way. I kind of like that actually. Again, bring the character into the now rather than keep feeling like we got to go into the past.
Right. So Luke had Yoda, Rey had Luke. So who does she have, right? Maybe at this point, maybe they've got their relationship back on track and they've made their peace or whatever. And he's still her master. You know what I mean? And so he's speaking to her and we get to see him. I mean, it would just be so amazing to actually have him back and doing that role in real life. So be cool. All right, I'm going to turn this off. Okay, now we're back. Hopefully you guys, all right. Well, anyways, but that's what I think. That's how I would like to see him come back. Let's talk about Natasha Liu Bordizzo.
Yeah.
What did you think about that? She's like perfectly cast.
Yeah, the physical appearance and the facial features. I mean, if you look at the photo from Celebration in the little, glamour shot they did with Rosario Dawson, she's just such a spot on, visual representation of Sabine, and to hear if she really captures the spirit of that character. Because I mean, the cool thing about Sabine is that she's always been very, she's not like the quote unquote hippie of the group, but she's definitely one of the more freer thinkers, right? She's the demo expert. She's younger. She's, she does the graffiti, type of art and that type of work. And so, she's definitely the more idealistic of the group in some ways. And so, how does that come across? But then also, how does that character really mature from where we've seen her? And we saw her mature quite a bit in Rebels. So where does she go now, all of these years later, as they still are on the hunt for Ezra and as they get close? And, what is that? Do we find that there's something more than the friendship with Ezra, that's missing? I think I'd still like for that relationship to be a bit platonic, to be honest with you. But I could see where the shippers are going to ship.
Oh man, I shipped him in season 1. I mean, it was.
Well, I mean, because Ezra was like hitting on her every 5 seconds.
That's true. He was really enamored by the older girl and just, the pretty girl and fumbling around all the time.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually really like this casting quite a bit. She's got she's from Australia. She's got an Australian accent, of course. So I think she'll probably have to hide that because she didn't have that, right? In Rebels, which is not going to be a big deal. She definitely looks the part. I haven't seen anything with her. I saw a trailer for Voyeurs, and I thought, wow, okay, if you really want to see a lot of Natasha Borghese,
a lot of her, yes,
a lot of her, you probably want to watch that series on Amazon. But otherwise, I think she's going to be a good fit. And you like we'll come back to it because it's in the screenshot when we get to when we're talking about the pictures, because we're going to go through all 7 of the shots that were shown in just a second. But I do want to come back and visit her look and the aesthetic of Sabine Wren and some things around that. Okay, so the ones that we don't know for sure are Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I know everybody is saying, oh, she's going to be Hera Syndulla.
Hera,
yeah, which I would be fine with. I don't mind. I think she could pull that off. What do you think?
Well, I mean, if that's Hera in this screenshot you got up on the screen right now, I mean, she's got the height and everything else that, and kind of the build. I mean, Mary Elizabeth Winstead has that kind of shape and build and everything too.
Yeah.
And, no, she makes my heart like pound a little harder too.
Well,
Ewan McGregor's very lucky man.
Yeah, he's a very lucky man. I would love to see her in that role. We don't know much about Ivana Songno, I think, or Songno. I think so we don't know anything about her, but we do know that Ray Stevenson has confirmed that he plays an admiral, but it is not Thrawn. Of course, that's what he's saying. I can't see him playing Thrawn. I know some people in the chat have already mentioned that they've enjoyed all of his, who was it? Gary said Ray Stevenson pretty much always plays an awesome tough guy. Ray Stevenson in Rome is his best role, Titus Pulo. So I think there's some fans out there. I know a lot of people are excited about him, but I think it's a safe bet that he's going to be an Imperial person of some sort, a jerk, right?
Right, yeah. But again, I think some of the characters you've seen Mary Elizabeth Winstead play, I think make sense for her to fit into Hera. I can definitely see that working as well, and but yeah, so what's the question? Who else might we see?
It was just about whether or not, who do we think Elizabeth Winstead would play, Mary Elizabeth Winstead?
Yeah, I think it would be her. And again, I think, when you're talking about Ivana Songno, I think we need to have new characters in here, kind of like what we have with Tara, right? Or Tala rather, and Obi-Wan. We need to have some fresh blood in there. So it's just not us going down memory and nostalgia lane.
Yeah.
Even though we've got a new story. But what would be really cool though is to see some of the Empire characters come back, right? And some of the who was the man? I mean, I'd love to see like Admiral Arlani come into play from the Chiss, but I don't think that the Chiss would come in would be pretty, potentially unrealistic. I think that might be something else that comes later,
maybe later. Yeah.
But who was the Empire person in Rebels? What was her name? I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, the female?
Yes.
Oh, she died.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she died in
Oh, that's right.
Farewell and the last episode. What's the name?
That's right. I haven't watched Rebels in a while. We need to go back and do that. But
yeah.
So again, I'm hoping for a new character though. I mean, we need a little bit of new blood. We need some more. Again, it can't just be, I think, Thrawn being the antagonist here. I think there needs to be somebody else that's also helping us get to Thrawn. Much like what we saw in Mandalorian with Ahsoka when she was introduced to us. And so I think that's, some characters like that again is kind of a hunt, and you got to pick up the trail as you go. And I think characters like that to be new and give us a consistent, quote unquote bad guy, I think is going to be really important for us to build up to get to the characters that we really, really want to see that mean the most to us.
Mm-hmm. Gary says, "Oh, dang, this will be Mike flip. What if Mary Elizabeth Winstead is Mara Jade? Cue the New England. No. Where's Steph? Maybe she's not watching this one, or at least she hadn't seen that comment. But I like that idea. I keep saying they're going to bring her back. I just don't know how or when. But if they're going to do it, this would be the series to do it.
Really? Okay. Still, I mean, I'd love to see it happen too. I just don't know how that works.
I already gave you my theory, and now I can do it.
I know
now.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, but I know. I don't think you like it. I don't think you like
come up with a new one.
That's
go home and try again.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, let's see. So the other stuff before we get into the other pictures here, just quickly, filming began on May 9th of this year. So they were only about 3 weeks in filming when Celebration happened. They have said that it's going to be more serialized. So rather than having separate kind of contained adventures, it'll be kind of a long, lengthy storytelling.
Kind of like we're seeing with Kenobi, yeah.
Yep.
I like that, actually.
No, I do too. I think it bodes well. But what do you think about this? I mean, I think everybody keeps saying that it's a foregone conclusion that it is going to be about the hunt for Ezra and Thrawn. I don't disagree with that. I can't see why it could really be anything else other than that. But there are things that, as we look through in these screenshots here in just a second, that do make me wonder, like, what are they doing? Like, how are they going to tell this story? There's some, I would say, inconsistencies, because that sounds negative. And what I mean by that is right now everybody's saying, oh, that's in Kenobi, this isn't going to happen, or that shouldn't happen, and they're not being consistent here, and they're not reading the lore and all that. And it's because we haven't seen the final episode. So I want to just make that very clear.
Right.
I'm going to say these things because we only have screenshots right now. Some of this stuff is a little foggy, and I don't know how they're going to true that up. So, and we can start with this one first. Like, when we see a lot of these shots of Ahsoka Tano, she is Ahsoka, quote, the gray. You know what I mean? She's not in her whites, in her white, Ahsoka the white at the very end of season 4 of Star Wars Rebels. So that leads me to think that, okay, either they're going to change that, or are we getting some kind of a mixture of flashbacks? Like this scene here, the very first shot where you see Hera Syndulla on the left-hand side. You can definitely see Ahsoka Tano. They're kind of walking into what looks like a ship of some sort. But this would have to be, I would think, a flashback of some sort, or we're going to start in the past before and lead up to that moment when they take off. Or maybe they take off at the very end of the first episode to go find.
Well, but Ahsoka's not in the whites when we see her Mandalorian, though, either.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're not combat ready if you're wearing the whites. You're not a Jedi of the High Republic where you don't expect to have combat at all. And so I think that you're in battle gray makes a lot of sense. And again, especially if you're doing any kind of stealth work, wearing white's not going to work too well. So I'm not caught up on color of clothing, because if you have hopefully they have more than one pair of clothes or one set of clothes.
I mean, I'm not
right. Yeah. But
he's got the brown jacket and the orange pants.
Right. And we can't all be Lando, right? So with all the different capes and whatnot, but I mean, that she would have different cloaks and different things for different missions. It would make sense. I mean, some of the people are going to die on that hill. I just don't understand it, because it's literally a cloak, but yeah. Okay.
No, it's definitely not a hill I die on. Her staff too is another thing that's kind of missing from these shots and from the Mando series. So what happened with that? Again, I don't know. Maybe they don't have to explain these things, but those are the things that I find interesting that they changed. So we'll see. Let's see.
Maybe not changed. It's just they haven't brought them back, or they haven't brought them into it.
I preface this by saying that I'm saying they changed it, but I'm acknowledging that it's because we've not seen it yet. So all right. So the next shot is
the transporter room.
It looks like the transporter room from Star Trek. Let's go with that.
It does a lot.
Well, it looks like a ship of some sort. Of course, I don't know. This could be that counselor ship. I think this is and I even think this may be it as well. I've actually got a bonus picture in here. It's so what we're showing, first off, I should have said this. This is terrible podcasting. What we're talking about right now is all the material that was shown at the Mando Plus show, right? That panel event. There was actually 2 clips that were shown at the Lucasfilm showcase extravaganza, whatever they called it, bonanza, whatever they called that thing. And I've got a picture of that clip in here, and there was a lot of discussion about whether or not that was the ghost, which we'll come back to in just a second. But I think that this picture here, the very first picture, could be because if you look at the red here and the white, you can see here the white, the red, I guess the walls, if you will, on that. And
Right.
then you see it here again. You can see the red. It's kind of that accent colors all the way throughout of it, throughout
Sure.
the ship. It looks like to me that T6 counselor ship that we see at the very end of that last episode of Rebels where they take off. And on top of that, they had the Lego version that was there that was coming out in October of this year.
Yep.
They had a picture of that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
Not coincidental, right? Yeah. I think this is their quote unquote flagship. This is what they're going to be toting around in.
Rather than the ghost, because I think, and I think that begs the question. So what does Harrison do? I mean, she's a general at this point, right? We know that at least by Rogue One, she's a general. So she's around. So, she may be doing other things with the ghosts, or maybe she decides to join them on this ship and they park the ghost somewhere.
The ghost might be docked with it, and that's why they're together. And so it doesn't mean the ghost isn't there. Because really it's Ahsoka and Sabine, right? So that the ghost wouldn't be there with those two. They have their own ship, and that seems perfectly reasonable. Yeah. And that they would team up with Hera and the ghost would be with them, I think would make a lot of sense. I think that would be really awesome to see truly live action. I know we saw it in Rise of Skywalker and a couple, we've seen it in Rogue One, but it'd be really cool to kind of see it front and center. Yeah. Maybe in combat and all of that good stuff too.
And to be clear, no pun intended, the pictures that we're looking at least for Ahsoka Tano and Harris and Dula, they're walking in. All we can see is their backs. We can't see their faces in any way.
And they're fan cam, so they're not the purest of quality here to where you get a lot of detail in them either. So you have a little bit of a fuzz factor going on, but overall not too bad though.
Yeah, it's like 240 by 80 resolution around there. And here's the one that was interesting. So you see this little hand that's reaching out looks like for a cup. A lot of people have speculated that this could be somebody like Jason, but however, I think Jason clearly had green skin. This person's hand does not, but it does look like someone's reaching out with the Force in some way.
And does it look human? I mean, it might just be the frame that it was frozen on. It looked like it was human in the playing.
It's just the terrible frame that I got here on this one.
That's interesting. I mean, again, there's Force sensitive characters, and that they would stumble over some of them. It's entirely plausible.
Having one ride with them. It could be Padawans, of course. It could be a new character we're just not thinking of, somebody else.
And maybe it's Ezra. I mean, the skin's a little light, but I mean,
yeah,
maybe it's.
I think they're saving Ezra though, but it could.
Oh no, I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
I think he's definitely not going to make an appearance.
And this
sooner.
The same aesthetic is here on this table of that blue and the white and the red circle in there. Looks like
very Crimson Dawn inspired.
I was going to say Target, but
Target too. Same difference.
Same thing, right? It's all about
Crimson Dawn owns Target.
Your focus determines your reality.
That's right.
Okay,
here's a fun one though. This is a fun one.
So this is Ahsoka Tano kind of brushing her hand over what look like ancient ruins. These ruins look like a lot of the same ruins that we saw during the World Between Worlds.
Yeah, maybe what's around the Seeing Stone as well.
Seeing Stone had the same ruins as well. Yep.
Yeah, so I think this is again. I think this is something that could be really interesting about the series, though. Is again, it continues to explore and expound upon the lore aspect of Star Wars and the lore aspect of the Force, and I think that could be a really interesting thing, especially within the context of basically a search and rescue type of idea of a mission, right? Even though it's been going on for many years at this point.
Yeah.
But that they would continue. I mean, kind of like what we expected to see a little bit more of with Luke Skywalker of, finding these ancient ruins and finding different, different objects and, what do they mean and the research into them and some of that, which we're getting a bit of in Shadow of the Sith. But I mean, it's really cool to be able to get other characters and have a different take on that as well, especially a character like Ahsoka, who, again, isn't necessarily a Jedi, but definitely has a lot of Jedi principles within her. And, how does it play into what she's trying to get out of it in order to find Ezra? And that she would find, stones or other ancient artifacts that would help her communicate or extend her Force awareness. Again, work within the concept of the show, I think.
Yeah, not to spoil anything, but you may be seeing a Seeing Stone or reading about one here very soon again as well. So I like the idea of a seeing stone, to be honest, but it does look like it's on the ground too.
Yeah.
But could they be
Again,
going
since
to Tython or Malachor some way?
well, and again, Tython's such a great example because we know that Grogu went there in order to commune and try to find a Force user.
Mm-hmm.
So Ahsoka presumably has done something similar. And so would she go back to Tython? And is there more than just the Seeing Stone still there? Or are they really exploring and finding something new and they've stumbled over something? Because this looks like it's been, covered in dirt. And again, it's a really harsh shot in general. And these are very raw images. I mean, they shot these days before Celebration and, cut them together and threw them out there for us. Or for the people who are lucky enough to get into the panel.
You might be reading about Tython very soon.
Anything you've ever thought about Star Wars, you're probably going to be reading here in just a few days.
in a few weeks, yep.
Hu Yang.
I'm not saying who or why or what, but okay. So Hu Yang, I think it's universally accepted that this is Hu Yang. I would agree.
Yeah. You want to give people a little backstory on Hu Yang real quick?
Well,
for those that might not recognize the name.
Yeah. So he was a droid that was in charge of taking Padawans out and helping them find their lightsaber.
Younglings, still, yeah.
And he showed up in the Clone Wars. There's the biggest question that I have is where the heck has he been? Because he didn't show up in anything since then, right? And we've had a long period of time. So where has he been hanging out this whole time? I don't know if he went undercover. He didn't. He got turned off and put in storage somewhere, locked up in a crate. But
maybe he's been safeguarding whatever's left of some of these relics.
Yeah, and if you think about the Padawan that we saw earlier, presumably the child that's trying to use the Force.
Oh, sorry.
the child that's trying to use the Force, maybe, this is where there's a natural link. He's still doing that, right? Maybe he's part of the path. I'm not saying they're going to show him in Kenobi, but I mean, he's just always been in this role. He continues to stay in this role, and he's just been undercover this whole time.
How cool would that be, though, if we saw live action, like the escalation of a kid finding a kyber crystal and getting that in the live action sequence? That would be really, really neat.
The other part of this too that I don't think has been talked about much is in the Clone Wars, this character was voiced by David Tennant, and as everybody knows him as one of the Doctor Who characters, right? One of the doctors, and a lot of people's favorite doctor. But that would be really neat too. Like that seems like a pretty big announcement to say that you've got somebody like David Tennant coming to Star Wars. I know he was rumored, I think, at one point, or no, it was the other guy. One of the other guys was rumored to play Palpatine before the Rise of Skywalker.
No, it was David Tennant.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah. Because he was in Rise of Skywalker, and everyone speculated who it was because it was a name.
But yeah, it would be great to have him back voicing the character, and it'd be a pretty easy role for him to just slip in, do some voice recordings, and bounce out. So that'd be great to have him back. But he is and to be just to kind of give you even more history on this thing. So this is a droid that existed in the Old Republic era. So think of the SWTOR, the Old Republic. The particular now I won't get into all the details, but this is like a Make 4 droid, protocol type droid, and there's a number of them. There's a main character named Scorpio who's like this really evil looking. She's a female, but she's very evil. She's a very prominent character in that time frame. But these types of droids were all over the place, and there were armies of them everywhere. So
it's the real question, Albert, that all of our longtime listeners want to really know was he in the 1987 West End Games?
No, he was not in that.
Okay.
No, he was not.
So I want to make sure we got that in there this week.
Yeah,
can't miss an opportunity.
I don't have anything. Yeah, there hasn't been anything in this so far that would
gasp.
Let me do that. Okay, so we're here.
Here's the scene I was talking about earlier. Yeah, where she just unveils herself, and you definitely get to see the longer Laku here from Ahsoka.
I've got a better picture here. This is one of the shots that came out from, I think, Entertainment Weekly or Hollywood. One of the magazines had this shot here.
Yeah,
you can see them there.
I kind of, in a certain book that we've been reading that might be available here pretty soon, there's a scene in there early on where they're at the site of a ruins, and honestly, this screen, when I saw this, it conjured up that image right away.
Mm.
So
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so that might be an interesting connection there as well.
Yeah, the only thing that they haven't done yet is her montrals. So basically, her horns on top. Those aren't as big as they were at the end of Clone Wars Rebels, or the end of Clone Wars. So
yeah,
could be. But I mean, at some point,
again, that makes sense. That, I mean, having it be top heavy like that,
yeah,
seems like that would be impractical. I think these look great, though. I mean, again, we're not seeing them in action or how they move, or again, there were criticisms about the wrinkles, how they folded with the material, but I think aesthetically these look great, and I think these are much more true to what we expected to see initially. If we would have got this in Mandalorian, I think we would have the comments would have been fewer. I think about the differences between this and Rebels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think these look great, though. I think they did a really good job here.
And if you think about her character, I mean, it's a natural progression, and they're going to do that with all these characters. Right? Eventually, I think their objective is to kind of make them look as similar as they can to the animated characters, right, in every possible way. But there is a practical limit to what they can do with technology, and of course, now that we're 2-3 years down the road here, they've gotten better here. So I would expect maybe the Montrells get taller, and maybe she does look a little different. That'd be cool, and if not, that's totally fine too.
Right. I mean, this is the trade-off you get when it comes to, when you want practical stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want, how far do you want to take practical before you start giving up and going more of a CGI route or, more digital effects? And I think generally we want the practical side of things, except for a bantha. I don't need a practical bantha, but
I enjoyed the
I got
teeth.
one anyway.
Yeah, you got to see them get their teeth brushed.
It's very important.
Or picked, or whatever it was.
Yeah, picked, yeah. Yeah, with a water, or not the water pick, but the gaffy pick.
Yep.
But anyway, that's the trade-off, though, when you have live action. I mean, you want this stuff to not look digital and fake, but at the same time, we have some amazing makeup artists in this industry, and they do a really fantastic job, but there's always going to be some sort of limitation in there.
What do you think about her, like, if you watch this, you can't really tell in this shot because it holds just a little bit longer, but she's almost looking up. She pulls back this cloak, this hood, and she kind of turns her head sideways and looks up at something, like she's looking upwards in some way. I don't know that she. I mean, it makes me think she's looking at someone, or someone's called her, or she wants to show her face to them to let them know, or let it know who she is, or maybe she's trying to read something high up in the air. I don't know. It's really, I mean, we got nothing to go off of here, honestly, folks. So it is interesting, though, that she is looking up and pulling that hood back for some reason. Like,
it's very dramatic.
Yeah. I am Ahsoka Tano.
Right.
And then the last shot, of course, is the one that made everybody go,
bonkers,
absolutely nuts at Celebration. And they had started the shot by just showing the mural without much anything else. And everybody freaked out because, we all remember the mural at the end of episode 4. And then you get Natasha Liu Bordizzo walk into the frame, and you can see her now. Her hair has been cut really short. I think in everything I've seen so far, her hair is a little bit longer. But they look like they cut her hair. You can't really tell in here, but it does have a purple color, a purple tone. It's not as bright purple as it was at the end of that episode. But otherwise, I mean, she looks, a like for like in a lot of different ways.
Again, we're kind of seeing the upper quarter of her torso as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the design of the costume looks like it's going to be very on the mark as it comes to Phoenix Squadron, or at least the color scheme and the color palettes there, and it really does seem like it's very much going to feel like Sabine. So it seems like they've really nailed this with both casting and character design and costuming as well. So we'll have to see the rest of it and how that pans out, but very promising. But this was really cool. I think it was a really cool shot to see. I was glad that they brought something like this, and because people just went absolutely bonkers over this.
What I can't tell, and this is the other one that I was a little confused on. So I've heard people say they've recreated this shot. I guess they have. I mean, it is similar. It's exactly what happens. We don't know for sure because all we get is this one clip. We don't get to see what happens afterwards. Now, if it is, she ends up turning away with her helmet. It looks like she's probably got her helmet on the side of her like she did in the episode. She turns away and she walks towards Ahsoka Tano, who's standing there as Ahsoka the White with the big staff and all that. But if that is the case, then I'm just curious as to why they would show this, because that would be a flashback if it's a recreation,
Yeah, I mean, but again, we saw this with Kenobi, and so I think there's a bit of a precedence there now of, we go back to establish where we were at for people. So not only did they give us the flashback, then we actually get the scenes of Order 66 going on from a different perspective. And so that we would have something similar here to get people back, because we're not going to show them an animation, clip show of everything that happened in Rebels, where we left off. And so it would make sense for them to recreate a few scenes and maybe have a voiceover type of thing that's more of a storytelling, like we had at the end of Rebels with with Sabine.
Yeah.
Kind of given that epilogue as it was it Sabine or was it Hera?
It was
I think it was
Sabine.
Sabine. It was Sabine, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, to give kind of that that epilogue now turns into a prologue for the series, I think would be rather poetic in some ways and really help us get reacclimated to these characters and to really that Rebels vibe of things and really start to really get us primed and ready for it right away. So you don't have to worry about going back and rewatching a bunch of content either.
That'd be great. I mean, that'd be a cool task for them to have reshot, a really quick 1 minute, 2 minute introduction to Rebels and seeing this with the voiceover, that'd be great. I actually like that idea. And then we just pick up from this. Like, that'd be awesome if we literally pick up from this moment and go from there. But
I mean,
I think it's probably,
but they could also go 7 years later. I mean,
Sure.
exactly what we did with Kenobi. I mean, there's so many options,
Yep.
But I think it's a really great way for us to get regrounded in where we're at.
Yeah. And that's all we got. I thought I had. So here's the other shot. This is that bonus shot that I talked about.
Yeah.
You can see Ahsoka Tano here in the middle, and this is at a weird angle here. But if you look over to the right, that is definitely the front. And then a lot of people said, "Oh, it's the Ghost cockpit." Is not the Ghost cockpit. The Ghost cockpit does not look like that. I can assure you that.
Right.
It is the front of. And I think when we were at Celebration, Tawan, we were all sitting. We went back to the apartment. And we were there and we were looking at it. And at the time, I had a better shot, a better clip. And I couldn't find it. Now that clip is completely gone. But we had a better clip of there's another shot that I could not find that actually shows a better view of this cockpit here. And when you look at the front of that T6 Jedi Counselor ship, it's exactly the same. So that's why I think that's where all of this has been shot, right? If they've been out 3 weeks, they really haven't had a lot of time to go do a lot of different shots. So I would imagine a lot of that footage we saw is all from that same day of shooting or the same couple days. And so I would guess all of this stuff really is kind of taking place on that ship.
Yeah, it make a lot of sense for it to all be part of the same set.
Mm-hmm.
They've just got kind of a bigger set in combination with the volume. So yeah, I'm with you. I think this is all on the consular ship. And this is cool. I like when we get the interiors of these. I mean, the exterior and the design elements of what we've seen, everything from Ralph McQuarrie's original artwork to, the new designs from Doug Chiang and what we actually see into production. But I think it's really cool to be able to get these ideas because it was like it's like Slave One, right? Or,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Boba's Fire Spray Starship or whatever you want to call it. But seeing it rotate for the first time from the interior just gave you a whole new appreciation for it and just a completely different perspective on how that ship operates. And so getting these types of things for these ships where we haven't really seen the inside anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it gives you a sense of scale and the size. And again, when you look at, okay, well, how is the Ghost going to, this ship seems like it's huge, like it's potentially very, very big. And so is it something that the Ghost could really just dock onto and either they're similar size or this one is a bit bigger than the Ghost. So it makes a lot more sense that you'd have that type of port. And if it's a consular ship, then clearly there would be an ambassador, right? So
I was going to use that line earlier. If this is a counselor ship, where is the ambassador?
Right. But again, so that they would have some sort of connection, in order to, have a little tunnel or portal for people to walk back and forth. Again, makes a lot of sense.
Or she could just bring the Ghost. I mean, there's nothing to say she can't be following along with them too. We don't.
True. I mean, and again, if Hera's there, the Ghost has got to be there too, right?
Right.
I mean, she's not going to just leave it around.
And we saw it in the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen it enough. We know it's around. So,
yep,
she's out there kicking.
Oh,
taking names.
All right. Well, we got a little bit to wait on that one still, but I guess more as that one continues to develop. But that's it. That was pretty much.
Was it enough to get you like excited about it though? It was a surprise to get some of that footage. We really didn't think they were going to bring anything, right? But was it enough to kind of get the excitement going for you, knowing that we're still a good year away from all of this?
I didn't. I mean, to be honest, I'm such a big Rebels fan that I don't know that anything could have got me more excited. Like I was already pretty hyped about the series, as it were. I was hoping. The only thing that I was really concerned about was whether or not we were going to pick this up from there, and there was maybe that 1% chance that they were going to, subvert expectations, and suddenly we're going a different route. That's not the case, at least from everything I've seen, everything they've spoken about. It definitely looks like we're going back after Ezra, or wherever Ezra is, wherever Thrawn's at. You're going to find Thrawn. There's, especially like in The Mandalorian, when we know that Ahsoka Tano asks that, I forget what her name was, but she asked her, where is Thrawn? Right. So we speculated about whether or not Thrawn has come back and maybe Ezra's gone still. And that's why, you know what I mean? Because why would she ask that question about where Thrawn is? I mean, it could go either way. So anyways, what I'm saying is there was a lot of speculation about where the story was going. And with this release and some of the other clues that we've got, I'm pretty confident that that's the path they're going to take. No pun intended. So I'm pretty excited about it. I mean, I couldn't ask for something more than people have been calling this a sequel to Rebels, and I don't really have a problem with that. I think it's going to be a different tone. I think it's going to be a different type of series, right? I mean, it's the spirit of Rebels for sure, and we're picking up that storyline. But I don't know that it's safe to call it a sequel just yet. I don't want to call it season 5.
Is Filoni actually writing this? Or is he just producing and directing?
As far as I know, he's behind it in every way. They haven't been very clear. All they've said is Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are producing. I know Filoni's directing for sure.
Yeah,
because this is his official directorial debut series. He owns all of it. I would imagine he's writing.
I would assume he is. It would make way too much sense for him to do that. It would make very little sense for him not to. But again, he's part of the entire process. So that they might have someone else there to write with him, I think would be okay.
Sure.
And again, he's going to move this thing around. Because I mean, Clone Wars and Rebels had writers as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Filoni there with a pen and a sketch pad doing everything.
Yep.
I think the other important thing is that we're going to, we probably see Purrgils. We get some space whales in live
I
action.
would absolutely love that. Why not? Bring them back.
I know, right?
I didn't have a problem with them. I thought they were cool.
Yeah, it's going to be like Never-Ending Dragon. Or Never-Ending Story, rather.
Never-Ending Story with Luck Dragon. I'm a Luck Dragon. All right. Well, we'll end that on that 80s reference. I think we'll end the show there. You got any shout outs before we get out of here?
Yeah, let's do a few shout outs. Thank you everyone who showed up for the live stream. Again, if you're listening in, we do have a companion to this, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all at the same time. And you can go watch the replays there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the little bell for notifications when we're going to go live. But thanks for joining the chat tonight. Had a chat. Steph, Jonathan, Lauren, Jorge Castro, Eugene Berg, Gary Smith, Rick Bayless, Ernie, and of course, Alex, and all the lurkers in the background. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we certainly appreciate it. Again, special thanks to all of our Patreon members for helping make all this stuff work for us. And then, so tomorrow we're going to be back at this.
Yeah, programming update. We'll be back here. So tonight will be the 5th episode of the Kenobi series, and I plan on staying up to watch it, 2 a.m. local time here, but I'm going to do it. And we're going to come back. So in less than 24 hours, we'll be back here to talk about episode 5. So we're going to get that out pretty quickly.
Get your bets in on how long the episode's going to be.
Well, yeah, and I'm gonna try to watch it as many times as I can, even though I've got work and a couple other things I got to get done tomorrow. But we will be back within 24 hours to bring you guys that latest. And I know if you hadn't had a chance to watch it, that's fine. We get it. It's going to be so quick. So come back to listen to the podcast or watch the YouTube feed once you've had a chance, and hopefully you can join us if you've watched it before then.
And again, we'll be very generic with how we post the episode out there, so there won't be any spoilers or anything, but go watch it. What are you waiting for?
Yeah. Let's see. And I think that is going to be it. I'm trying to think if there's one other thing I was going to make mention. I already talked about Shadow of the Sith. That'll be later this week. You'll get that non-spoiler review.
Did you update the outro credits with our new Patreon member?
Not with Daz. I mean, that came in today. So Daz, I apologize. I didn't get your name in here for this one, but you will be here on the next one. So, all right. With that, we'll see you guys tomorrow for Kenobi Part 5.
See you then.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.